right, let's unpack this. When you hear Thomas Edison, what immediately springs to mind? For most of us, it's the light bulb, right?
Yeah, usually.
Maybe the phonograph or that classic image of the lone genius, the Wizard of Menlo Park, conjuring ideas out of thin air in some cluttered laboratory.
Indeed. That's definitely the popular narrative, but the reality we're about to dive into, drawing from our sources like his extensive Wikipedia entry, is far more intricate, layered, and frankly, much more compelling.
Okay.
Edison was undoubtedly a prolific inventor, a man credited with shaping the modern industrial world, but he was also an incredibly shrewd businessman, a pioneering team leader, and, well, a figure embroiled in some fascinating, often pretty brutal controversies.
Right. So our mission today is to kind of cut through that familiar mythology and discover the real Thomas Edison, not just the inventor of individual devices, but the visionary who established the world's first industrial research laboratory. He fundamentally changed how invention happens.
That's a huge point.
Yeah. We'll explore the astonishing breadth of his work, the surprising personal challenges he faced, and even his lesser-known philosophies that influenced his life. By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a much clearer, more nuanced picture of an innovator whose life offers incredible lessons on persistence, collaboration, and maybe the powerful, sometimes manipulative art of public perception.
Absolutely.
Where should we start? His early life.
Let's do it. Thomas Alva Edison was born in Milan, Ohio, back in 1847, and grew up mostly in Port Huron, Michigan. He was the seventh and last child, and interestingly, he received very little formal schooling.
Very little.
His mother, who was a former school teacher, she was his primary educator for most of his early life.
Yeah.
He only attended formal school for, a few months, before being basically deemed difficult and sent home.
Yeah, the story goes he was too distractible and asked too many questions, but he was described as this intensely curious child, just voraciously reading and spending hours experimenting at home. Probably drove his parents nuts sometimes, I imagine.
What's particularly striking here, though, is how early adversity and maybe a unique learning style really shaped him. Edison developed pretty significant hearing problems around age 12.
Right, the deafness.
Yeah, often attributed by biographers to maybe scarlet fever and untreated ear infections. Now, he later spun these elaborate, sometimes fictitious tales about the cause.
Okay.
But he genuinely seemed to believe his increasing deafness became an asset. He felt it allowed him to avoid distraction and concentrate with this singular intensity on his work. It's a fascinating example of how a perceived limitation can become, a kind of strength.
That's interesting.
And modern experts, looking back, have even suggested he may have exhibited traits consistent with, say, ADHD, highlighting how unique minds adapt and thrive in maybe unconventional ways.
And his early career was certainly unconventional. I mean, far from the quiet solitude of a laboratory people picture. He started as what they called a news butcher.
Right, on the trains.
Yeah. Selling newspapers, candy, even vegetables on trains. Can you imagine the hustle? By age 13, he was apparently making $50 a week.
Which was an astounding sum for a teenager in the 1860s.
Absolutely. This early entrepreneurial spirit, this knack for business, it was just there from the very beginning.
Definitely. And this blend of, street smarts and technical curiosity really formed the bedrock of his future success. There's that pivotal moment. It sounds almost like something out of a novel. Came when he was 15.
The train incident.
Yeah, he saved a 3-year-old from a runaway train.
Yeah.
The boy's grateful father, who happened to be a station agent, trained him as a telegraph operator.
Wow.
And that was a game changer. It taught him the mechanics of electricity, communication, the whole deal. He'd take night shifts, which, conveniently left his days free for his true passions, reading, and, of course, those endless experiments.
He even set up a lab in a baggage car. Right.
He did. A makeshift laboratory in the baggage car of his train job.
That's just classic Edison right there. Always tinkering, always pushing boundaries, sometimes to the detriment of his day job, like that infamous sulfuric acid spill.
Oh, yeah.
That got him fired from Western Union in Louisville. You can almost see him totally absorbed while, chaos ensues around him. This constant hands-on experimentation paired with that sharp business mind, it really foreshadowed everything that was to come.
Precisely. And his relentless pursuit of practical innovation quickly bore fruit. His first patent, that was for an electric vote recorder, granted in 1869.
Okay.
But the true game changer, the moment his vision for organized invention really took hold, came in 1876. That's when he established his first laboratory facility in Menlo Park, New Jersey.
Menlo Park.
And this wasn't just an inventor's workshop. It was arguably the world's first industrial research laboratory, bought with funds from his quadruplex telegraph invention.
The quadruplex telegraph, that sounds complicated. What exactly was it?
Well, it was a brilliant and crucially immensely profitable system. It allowed 4 telegraph messages, 2 going each way, to be sent simultaneously over a single wire.
Ah, okay. 4 times the traffic.
Exactly. A revolutionary leap in communication speed and efficiency. And it generated substantial income that Edison, very shrewdly, reinvested into his greatest invention, the process of invention itself.
So this industrial research laboratory, what did that truly signify? I mean, how did it fundamentally change the game compared to the lone inventor tinkering away?
It marked a monumental shift. A move from the era of individual, often isolated inventors to organized, systematic science and teamwork. Now, Edison was legally credited with most of the inventions produced there. He amassed an astonishing 1,093 U.S. patents and hundreds more internationally.
Wow.
But he's the director of the team. He brought together skilled machinists, chemists, physicists, and engineers, and drove them hard with his famous sweat-of-the-brow philosophy.
Right. 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration.
That's the one. The lab itself was a marvel. Sources describe it as holding 8,000 kinds of chemicals, every kind of screw made, hair of humans, silk in every texture, cocoons. Just this unprecedented repository of materials and knowledge. It was a physical embodiment of systematic trial and error.
That's truly remarkable. To envision and then actually build an R&D department on steroids back in the 19th century, what was the impact of this organized, almost factory-like approach to invention compared to the solitary inventors before him?
It standardized and massively accelerated the process of innovation. Before Menlo Park, an invention might take years, maybe decades, to perfect, often by just one person. Edison's lab applied industrial principles to discovery: division of labor, systematic experimentation, rapid prototyping, focused problem solving.
It's basically the blueprint.
It is. It's the blueprint for pretty much every major corporate R&D department we see today, from tech giants to pharmaceutical companies. And he even had that placard over his desk, right? With Sir Joshua Reynolds' quote, "There is no expedient to which a man will not resort to avoid the real labor of thinking."
A clear ethos for his team. No shortcuts.
Exactly. Emphasizing rigorous, sustained intellectual effort.
And this ethos, this intense focus on organized, relentless experimentation at Menlo Park, it quickly yielded astonishing, diverse results. Now, while we mostly associate Edison with electric light,
Right.
it was actually the phonograph in 1877 that first truly gained him widespread notice. That's what instantly earned him the moniker, the Wizard of Menlo Park.
It really was. This device, recording sound on tinfoil around a grooved cylinder, it seemed almost magical to the public, even though the sound quality was, pretty limited by today's standards.
Like capturing the human voice itself must have been mind-blowing.
Total sensation. Imagine hearing a recorded voice for the very first time. It was utterly revolutionary. And the phonograph was just one example of the sheer breadth of contributions coming out of Menlo Park.
Right.
He also significantly improved the carbon microphone for telephones. This basically made Bell's original invention commercially viable by greatly enhancing its sound quality and range.
Ah, okay. So Bell invented it. Edison made it work better for widespread use.
Essentially, yeah. His specific microphone technology was used in virtually all telephones for decades, alongside the Bell receiver, right up until the 1980s.
Right.
But let's clarify a crucial distinction here, and it's a common misconception.
Okay.
Thomas Edison did not invent the light bulb itself.
Wait, really? I thought that was his big claim to fame.
It is, but it's more nuanced. Many inventors, people like Warren de la Rue, Joseph Swan, and others, had developed incandescent lamps long before Edison. Some glowed, but
they weren't practical.
Exactly.
Simply.
These early versions often had critical flaws. Extremely short lifespans, maybe prohibitive manufacturing costs, or they required way too much current to be commercially viable on a large scale.
Okay, so that's where Edison came in.
Precisely. Edison's true genius wasn't just in making a bulb glow. It was in fundamentally shifting electric light from a scientific novelty to an everyday necessity. His breakthrough, the one that really mattered for the market, came with the carbonized bamboo filament.
Bamboo.
Yep, carbonized bamboo. It could last an unprecedented 1,200 hours. That turned a scientific curiosity into a potential mass-market product. This wasn't just an invention, it was the birth of an entire industry. It showed he understood market needs just as much as scientific principles.
So it wasn't just the bulb in isolation. What does this all mean for the electric grid we use today? He didn't just perfect the bulb. He had to envision the entire system, right? The whole infrastructure.
Absolutely, that's key. Edison understood that a light bulb, no matter how good, was useless without a comprehensive system to power it.
Right.
So after the light bulb breakthrough, he founded the Edison Illuminating Company, and he patented a complete system for electricity generation and distribution. In 1882, he famously switched on the Pearl Street station in New York City,
The first power station.
the first commercial one, yeah, providing 110 volts of direct current, DC, to customers.
Yeah.
This was his grand vision, centralized power generation feeding a local network.
This, however, this DC system, it ignited the infamous War of the Currents, with Westinghouse, who championed alternating current, or AC. What was the fundamental problem for Edison's direct current system that kind of opened the door for this fierce competition?
The fundamental problem for Edison's DC was its inherent limitation. It just couldn't transmit electricity efficiently over long distances, maybe about a mile from the power plant, max, without significant voltage loss.
Oh, okay. Not very scalable.
Not at all for widespread use. It meant you needed power stations practically every few miles, which was incredibly expensive and inefficient if you wanted to electrify, say, whole cities or rural areas. This left a huge market opportunity wide open for AC.
And AC could travel further.
Right, AC could be transmitted over vast distances using thinner, cheaper wires, and crucially, its voltage could be easily stepped down using transformers for safe local consumption. It was a technical difference with massive economic and infrastructural implications.
And this war got pretty nasty, didn't it? Edison was vehemently against AC. He called it unworkable, incredibly dangerous. It was more than just a technical debate.
Oh, absolutely. The War of the Currents became a brutal propaganda battle.
Yeah.
Edison personally attacked George Westinghouse, publicly claiming AC would kill a customer within 6 months.
Wow.
He engaged in this relentless and frankly horrifying campaign. He publicly electrocuted animals with AC stray dogs, even an elephant named Topsy.
Oh, I've heard about Topsy. Grim.
Yeah, all to sensationalize the perceived dangers of AC. He even colluded with rivals to ensure the first electric chair was powered by a Westinghouse AC generator, trying to brand AC as the executioner's current. More lethal, more barbaric.
That's ruthless.
It was. But his own company, Edison Electric, was rapidly losing market share to AC competitors by the end of 1887. It showed the public and industry weren't entirely swayed by his scare tactics.
So how did it end?
Well, the war officially ended, more or less, in 1892. J.P. Morgan engineered a merger between Edison Electric and a major AC competitor, Thomson-Houston Electric, forming General Electric, GE.
Ah, the birth of GE.
Yeah. Though Edison initially resisted, AC ultimately won out as the dominant standard for long-distance power transmission. His DC system just couldn't compete on scale.
Okay, moving past the intense war of currents, it's clear Edison's inventiveness didn't stop. It continued across an astonishing array of fields. His contribution to motion pictures, for example, is immense and maybe often overshadowed by the light bulb stuff.
Very true.
He received a patent for the kinetograph camera. Though it's important to note, his employee, William Kennedy Dixon, did much of the critical photographic development work, right?
That's right. Dixon was key. Edison also built the kinetoscope. That was the peephole viewer for individual audiences. It was first publicly exhibited in 1891.
A personal movie machine?
Kind of, yeah. What's fascinating here is how quickly he adapted to and then tried to dominate this entirely new medium. His film studio, the Black Maria, produced nearly 1,200 films.
1,200?
Yeah, from the incredibly short, like Fred Ott's Sneeze,
Ugh.
to groundbreaking narrative works like The Great Train Robbery. And he even controversially filmed electrocuting an elephant, that Topsy film again, a grim continuation of his AC propaganda, showing how his different interests sometimes crossed over.
Wow. And didn't he try to control the whole industry?
He did. In 1908, he founded the Motion Picture Patents Company, often called the Edison Trust. It was an attempt to control the burgeoning industry through patent litigation and licensing, very typical Edison business strategy.
Applying that same sort of monopolistic approach we saw in the War of the Currents to the emerging film industry. But what's even more surprising, though, is his personal take on the evolution of film itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ironic. Despite pioneering the technology, he notoriously disliked talkies when sound came along.
Really? Why?
He believed they spoiled everything. He felt people forgot how to act once sound was introduced, that it ruined the visual artistry. He even claimed his deafness allowed him to sense this degradation more keenly. It's a classic innovator's dilemma, maybe. Creating a new field, then struggling to embrace its next big evolution.
Interesting. His curiosity also extended into, well, less glamorous but still vital areas. like medicine with fluoroscopy.
Right, X-rays.
Yeah.
He designed the first commercially available fluoroscope, significantly improving it with calcium tungstate screens. These emitted brighter light than earlier materials, making the images clearer.
But that project had a dark side.
It really did. This raises an important and often tragic question about the human cost of innovation. Edison abandoned the fluoroscopy project after nearly losing his own eyesight due to radiation exposure during testing.
Wow.
And even more tragically, his assistant, Clarence Daly, who enthusiastically served as a human guinea pig for these X-ray experiments, he died at age 39 from radiation poisoning. Cancers linked directly to the exposure.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, Edison was profoundly affected. He stated later, "Don't talk to me about X-rays, I am afraid of them." It's a really somber reminder that in the rush for progress, the dangers aren't always immediately clear, especially with new technologies.
A truly heartbreaking story. Okay, and then, surprisingly perhaps, his curiosity led him towards botany late in his career. He also tried to invent a better rechargeable battery, right? The nickel iron one.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Aimed it for phonographs and maybe electric cars, which were a thing back then too. It was durable, but it never truly dominated the market like lead-acid batteries did.
And then in the 1920s, during a potential national security crisis, his Fort Myers Botanical Lab. This was established with his famous friends Henry Ford and Harvey Firestone.
The vagabonds, they called themselves,
Yeah.
on their camping trips.
Right. That lab was dedicated to finding a domestic source of natural rubber.
Indeed. This was a critical national security issue at the time, especially with growing global instability and the U.S. being heavily dependent on foreign rubber supplies, mainly from Southeast Asia.
So Edison tackled it.
He did.
Yeah.
Even in his 80s, he approached this with that characteristic Edison zeal. He and his team undertook this colossal effort. After meticulously testing a staggering 17,000 different plant samples.
17,000?
Yeah. From across the U.S. and Latin America, he eventually succeeded, finding that a crossbred goldenrod plant could yield about 12% latex. It's a powerful example of his relentless, almost obsessive trial-and-error method applied to a completely different field. Showcased his dedication to practical solutions right up until the end of his life.
Amazing persistence.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond his inventions, though, Edison held some remarkably strong and often contrarian personal views for his era. This intellectual independence, this questioning spirit, it seems to be a thread through his entire life, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. He was a self-described freethinker, profoundly influenced by Thomas Paine, the revolutionary writer. Edison stated, "I do not believe in the God of the theologians, but that there is a supreme intelligence I do not doubt."
Interesting distinction.
Yeah. It wasn't just in his lab. He applied that critical thinking to society itself. He was also a staunch advocate for nonviolence, famously saying, "I am proud of the fact that I never invented weapons to kill," which is a striking declaration from a man whose innovations were literally powering the Second Industrial Revolution, including his military aspects.
And then, perhaps unexpectedly, he was a vegetarian, a supporter of women's suffrage, and even advocated for pretty radical monetary reform. He opposed the gold standard and debt-based money, proposing a currency backed by commodities instead. These were incredibly progressive, even challenging viewpoints for his time.
They absolutely were, and they speak volumes about the depth of his independent thought. He wasn't content to just invent machines. He questioned societal structures, economic systems, moral conventions.
And his personal life, too, had its complexities. He married twice, had 6 children.
Right. And one son, Thomas Jr., caused him considerable trouble, apparently, selling dodgy snake oil-type products using the Edison name.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it led his father to actually go to court against him to protect his brand and reputation. So, not always smooth sailing there. Yet he maintained that famous and enduring friendship with Henry Ford. They took those annual motor camping trips together, indulging his love for the outdoors.
The vagabonds.
Exactly. When he died in 1931 at 84, his legacy was just truly immense. And in a quirky, maybe slightly macabre, historical footnote, his son Charles apparently preserved his last breath in a test tube. It's now at the Henry Ford Museum.
Wow, okay. So as we bring this deep dive to a close, it's abundantly clear that Thomas Edison was far, far more than the simple image we often hold.
Definitely.
He was a relentless experimenter, yes, but also a shrewd entrepreneur, a visionary who not only developed countless devices, but fundamentally organized the very process of invention itself. And a complex individual, strong moral and political convictions, sometimes ruthless in business, sometimes deeply humane. His life was just a testament to persistence, often through grueling trial and error, and the boundless power of an insatiably curious mind.
Edison's story really challenges us. to look beyond the surface, beyond those popular narratives. He reminds us that innovation is frequently a collaborative, systematic effort, not solely the work of a single isolated genius operating in a vacuum.
Right, the team at Menlo Park.
Exactly. And that even our greatest historical figures face significant controversies, ethical dilemmas like with the X-rays, and profound personal struggles. His willingness to question assumptions, whether it's the nature of light, the dangers of AC, or the very structure of our financial system, that's truly inspiring, I think.
So what stands out to you, the listener, from this deep dive into Thomas Edison? Perhaps it's the sheer breadth of his work. I mean, telegraphs, light, sound recording, movies, batteries, rubber. It's incredible. Or maybe the surprising details of his personal philosophies, or that fierce, brutal war of the currents. His journey prompts a powerful, lingering thought, doesn't it? In a world now built on collective knowledge and constantly evolving technologies, how do we fairly attribute credit for groundbreaking advancements? And what does true invention really mean when so many inevitably stand on the shoulders of giants, refining and crucially commercializing what came before?